here is a brand new statement from the president writing on Twitter. Saudi Arabia oil supply was attacked. There is reason to believe that we know the culprit, are locked and loaded depending on verification, but are waiting to hear from the kingdom as to who they believe was the cause of this attack and under what terms we would proceed. He went on to say there's plenty of oil. Amid concerns this attack could affect markets tomorrow, a senior administration official also telling CNN earlier these strikes likely originated in Iran or Iraq. As we get brand new images showing the purported damage that has affected 5% of the global oil supply. CNN's Jeremy Diamond is live at the White House for us. And Jeremy, tonight we're seeing the president really trying to calm nerves.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the most serious statement that we've seen from the president so far on these attacks on Saudi oil facilities that took place yesterday. The president here suggesting that the United States is locked and loaded, which suggests some sort of potential military response once the United States has identified with certainty who was responsible for this attack on Saudi oil facilities. Now, the president is not in this tweet naming a specific culprit, as he calls it in this tweet. But what we do know is that U.S. officials, other than the president, have already begun to do so. The Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, just yesterday directly blamed Iran for this attack on Saudi oil facilities. And today, I spoke with a senior administration official who said that this attack likely originated in Iran or Iraq. And of course, the notion being that even if Iranian forces did not directly undertake this attack, that it would have been undertaken by Iranian proxies in the region, militant groups that often have a very close command and control relationship with Iran and particularly its Revolutionary Guard Corps. So there are still questions about who exactly is responsible and whether the U.S. Is going to make that determination. The president here indicating that he is waiting on Saudi officials who've been a lot more cautious, I think it's important to note, in terms of laying blame for this attack. He is waiting for Saudi officials to say who they believe is responsible. But nonetheless, the president suggesting here that the U.S. is locked and loaded once it determines who indeed did undertake this attack. Anna?
And Jeremy, what can you tell us about these new satellite images? Do they offer any clues as to what happened and who's to blame?
Well, we do have new satellite images, commercial satellite images that were provided to us by a U.S. official, and it does show some of these 19 targets that were struck by this attack. Now, we do know that the Houthi rebels in Yemen have claimed responsibility, saying that they used 10 drones to attack these facilities, but U.S. officials are casting doubt on that, saying that because most of these facilities were struck at the northwest point of these various facilities, that it's unlikely that it emerged from Yemen, which is in the south of Saudi Arabia. Instead, senior administration official pointing to Iraq or Iran. Now, we have spoken with some of our CNN military analysts who have looked at these images, and they do say that, yes, it is more likely than not that it emerged that these attacks came from the north, meaning Iran or Iraq. But they are saying as well that it is not definitive proof. These satellite images are certainly not definitive in terms of laying the blame at Iran's feet or where the country of origin was for these attacks.
As he moves on to his fourth national security advisor in less than 3 years, it's become clear that Donald Trump's foreign policy is in shambles. It has produced turmoil but achieved almost nothing. Despite all the boasts, there are no new deals with China, Iran, North Korea, the Taliban, or between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Just uncertainty, disappointment, and lots of bruised feelings. Trump informed the world that he was a great deal maker, yet other than minor changes to NAFTA and the US-Korean Trade Pact, he has achieved little. There are many reasons for this. The Trump administration has been chaotic and undisciplined, bringing the ethos of a mom-and-pop real estate shop to one of the world's largest and most complex institutions, the United States federal government. The central problem, however, is that Trump is a bad negotiator. With both Kim Jong-un and the Taliban, he gave away crucial leverage right from the start. The North Koreans have wanted one-on-one meetings with the US president for decades. Trump gave away that prize right away, hoping to charm Kim into giving up his nuclear weapons. So far, Kim 1, Trump 0. With Afghanistan, Trump excoriated President Obama for announcing deadlines for troop withdrawals, And yet, he's done something similar, repeatedly announcing his eagerness to quit, and then being surprised that the Taliban sought to press its advantage. Consider Trump's muddle on Afghanistan. He fired John Bolton apparently because Bolton objected to making a deal with the Taliban, except that Trump then canceled talks with the Taliban, effectively agreeing with Bolton. Anyway, with Bolton gone, Trump does have the opportunity to act on his instincts and get something, a new Iran deal. Let's face it, his reimposition of sanctions on Iran has been surprisingly, brutally effective. But Iran is a proud ancient civilization and a canny regional power. It will not simply surrender. It might agree to a new deal, one that achieves more than the Obama Accord. But for this to work, Trump will have to overrule some of his most hawkish advisors and find a path to a real negotiation. The Iranians will likely sit down only if sanctions are suspended during the negotiations. They will want to describe any changes that are made as additional measures to implement the existing deal rather than a new deal. Whatever, that's what diplomats are there for. Trump's goal should be to get the Iranians to agree to extend the time horizon of key parts of the deal by approximately 5 years. He will not be able to make much headway on Iran's ballistic missiles. Iran views them as its defense against the vast Saudi military. On Iran's other regional activities, its support for Hezbollah, for example, it might well be willing to talk, but Trump will have to consider whether this would extend the negotiations into an interminable conversation involving Israel and the broader Middle East. Most important, to get an Iran deal, Trump would have to work against his fundamental urge always to claim total victory. Maybe that works in business, where there are single transactions, though it may explain why so few business people ever do business with Trump again. Anyway, foreign policy is not about solo transactions. It's about long-term relationships. Both sides have their own domestic politics and constituencies. Each needs to be able to say it has achieved success. If Trump can stomach that, he could emerge with something rare in his tenure so far, an actual foreign policy win. For more, go to cnn.com/Fareed and read my Washington Post column this week.